Welcome to my video. I'm Jennifer Roberts and this is True Divine, another writing on the wall. And I'm coming off the back of last night taking some notes, just trying to figure out where we're all at and what is going on. And there is so much going on. And also coming off the back of Wayne's show, again, synchronistically, you know, the awesome dude that is Wayne Steiger goes and talks about something that actually resonates with what I've been thinking about. And so we see where we are at in that. I'm going to read some notes here. I did a video quite a long time ago now about the masked and the unmasked and the ritual that was taking place, and that, you know, it very much was a ritual and a dark ritual at that. And so we're going back to that because we're seeing some of the ramifications of that ritual, which has been an underpinning aspect of this this plan that we're seeing unfold. And so here we have the ritual is basically where they why do we do ritual? Well, we do ritual because I feel it gives us an underpinning of intent and focus behind what we are putting our intent towards. Now, do I need to do ritual every time I want to energetically exchange a force of energy with somebody or towards something? No. But I feel ritual does aid me in that when I do get time to do ritual, which I love with the snake skin, the candles and the dripping wax and all of the other things that I'll use. One, it is super fun, and two, it helps me almost as if I'm going to the gym, the ritualistic gym, in that I'm focused and I know exactly when I do want to focus my energetic intent on the hop, you know, in an instant. My body and mind and spirit are used to it, and so I can jump into it without anybody knowing what I'm doing right while I'm talking to somebody. But I feel that that is bolstered and aided by the fact that I do take time out to really focus in with my intent by using tools, props, to mirror what I want to represent, what I want to meet with an energetic force, what I want to energy bend, what I want to manipulate, and have that reflected in my mind's eye by physical props and objects and activities that aid me in focusing the intent behind it. That can go both ways, in that ritual is in everything. It seems that we really do rely a lot on ritual in this reality. And you know, whether that is sporting ritual, going to the football every week, whether that is organized religious ritual, whether that is gambling ritual, whether that is sexual ritual, we seem to surround ourselves and we seem to affiliate these rituals into different groups, but nevertheless we all seem to use ritual to base a routine of life, a focus of our life, and we help it, we use it as an aid to identify ourselves and who we are, it seems. And so that can be a good thing. Yet when we are doing ritual because we've been coerced into doing it, we are actually doing ritual for somebody else, i.e. organized religion, the rituals that we do there, a lot of it being built on a lie. And so what you think you're putting your intent behind is very different. You're giving your power over to something else. Once you give your power over to something or anyone else, you really have no rights over it. You have given it over. You have given somebody the driving seat, you know, the steering wheel for your intent and your energetic focus, your louche, so to speak. And so it can be used against us when we are not conscious of it, and when we are not conscious of the powers of it. And so what happened before they brought this mask ritual in was that they took away everybody's natural rituals that they had been doing for the main part mindlessly. The sporting rituals, organized religious rituals, the routine rituals. They took all of that away, the concerts, and they stripped everybody, and it was a shock to the system. And so that sent people into a spiral of loneliness, having only those things to may help themselves identify who they were and what they were about. And so this is, in the meantime, while they are getting pummeled with the stripping away of what they feel is a representation of themselves, they are then also being bombarded with fear, 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 death, death, death. Now it seems in this realm very much so we are conditioned and indoctrinated to be into death ritual, but in a very not knowing why way, in that, just mindlessly we are obsessed with death. We have not kept it as the natural thing, as a ritual in itself. It is always seemingly a shocker. It's very hard to get over, all of those things and above. And so while we're being pummeled with this, what did they give us? They gave people a ritual. They gave them the masks. It was a token. It was a ritual. It was a way for people to run and hide their faces and hide themselves and their inner wounds under these face cloths, because they were so relieved at what they saw as a safety ring being thrown into the water, to save them from drowning. Because with all of these rituals taken away, a lot of people were found themselves at home with a lot more time, and a lot of people are not any good anymore at having meditative time, alone time, filling their time up. So people were all too quick to grab onto that safety rope that was the mask, to give themselves something to get behind, anything to get behind, a ritual of any kind that they could really go for. And that's why you saw so many people so triggered when they saw other people not wearing masks, because they did not want anything or anyone to even dare to come and question a ritual that was giving them some lifeline, some hidey hole, some escape from having to face those inner wounds that they were previously having to face in their alone time, having had all of their rituals stripped from them in a shocking way. And so at this point, people do get to the point where they are already hooked into a narrative, because whatever comes with that mask, whatever narrative comes behind that mask, it is going to be absorbed, and people will cling on to it for all of their worth, because they do not want to be back in that place where they are just alone with themselves and their thoughts and their wounds. And so this is where you saw people getting more and more easily drawn into the narrative, into the agenda, into the fear, into the propaganda. And so it is at this point that they can be giving out and out all of their appreciation and affiliation to the narrative, and they get more and more possessive over saving the narrative no matter what, because they do not want to go back to that cell, to that hole where they were alone with their inner wounds, having been stripped of their rituals. And so, like any cult, this is grooming. And the grooming starts with taking something away and giving something and replacing it with something else, dispersing, refocusing, refiguring the energetic force onto something else. Again, it's that circuit board magic. They're creating a bypass. Your previous rituals having been given a lot of your energy, focus, and intent. Now they're sort of creating a bypass. They're putting a bit of metal strapping over the circuit board in order to jump past your rituals, and, having felt the loneliness and the pain in between, and to give you something else, to redirect your energetic force. And so they are completely absorbed at this point in the narrative, almost forgetting, and but not even forgetting, worse than that, their previous rituals, um, sort of having come with a bit of a stain now, because they are so obsessed and in, what's the word, affiliation, dedication to the new narrative, that even their own rituals start to offend them. Their old rituals that they used to do, it would be selfish now to go back to that. And so again, this is grooming into a cult, into a negative relationship, into a very abusive and dark relationship. And so this is where their own needs aren't even being met, but they find this to be a virtue. It can be something that helps them gain praise in the new narrative, their new god, their new ritualistic life, in that they will be unselfish. They will not want and crave the power of people being together and having fun and singing and dancing. They will call anybody else who is daring to do that selfish. They will be violent towards them. They will shout them down. They will be emotionally abusive to them, because they are questioning the narrative. They are then, by them be living and not dying while they're having fun in the way that the propaganda said they would, they are, even just by not having the absolute sense and unselfishness to die as the news said they should, then they are then the selfish ones for not even doing that. And they are the selfish ones, and they are the dangerous ones to the new ritual, to the new narrative, because they are sort of proving it wrong in real time. But you would think that would wake people up. At this point, people are so hypnotized into the narrative, into the fear, into the virtue signaling, into the desperate clamor for praise and appreciation from their new gods that roll the script of the narrative, that we see that you would think that the obvious would start to wake these people up, to shake these people up. No, actually it works very cleverly in the opposite way, because of this, at the stage we are at now in the hypnotism, in the magic, we then see that people have lost all empathy that they used to have, lost all sense of common sense that they used to have for anything that threatens the narrative, threatens the new God. And so this is where actually you would think bombarding these people with facts, with figures, with the very real reality right in front of them, that surely that will wake them up. No, you're wrong. This is where it actually makes them dig down deeper into the hypnotism, into the magic spell, and actually the redirect their frustration at the narrative not being all that it said it would be, or all that it would promise to be. They would rather die before admitting this to you. And so they'll dig down deeper into the narrative, again putting more energetic force, Loosh, behind the narrative, creating this God to be more and more real, this new world to be more and more real, that is governed by, in a different way, by a different being in this very real way. Or they will start to tie in. At this stage we are seeing a lot of that again, in that they'll start to tie in their old saviors, their old gods, to the narrative story in a positive way, in that the politicians that are going to come back and be the saviors that helped start off all of this, the God that is seemingly the religious Christian God that has seemingly been going to come back and fix all of this for a very, very long time, Jesus and every other thing that you can think of the old rituals, they're starting to sew and stitch them into the new narrative alongside the new God. This is how God seemed to morph in people's consciousness for far too long, in a mindless way. It is actually, I feel, the same beings behind it, the same hijackers behind it, just very much knowing how to trigger people into a hypnotic state, and they can mold their new wants and needs into alongside the old wants and needs, and just create a new God with the same name, and continue this loop that we are in, this mindless loop. And so this would be all of the steps that would kill individualism. And so at this point, you'll be noticing that as an individual who is awake and aware of what is going on, you will be feeling more and more isolated from those that are in affiliation with the narrative. Why? Because you're sticking out like a sore thumb, and you are no longer welcome. Because again, you dare to question the narrative, you dare to be so selfish to do so. And so this is where more and more those that are within the narrative start to feel like a strong collective. They find their safety in their numbers, and again, people rile up people. So again, more energetic force is put behind the belief of the narrative. It doesn't matter what the reality is showing, it is what the belief, what the collective want to believe it to be now. And they want to believe it to be exactly what the narrative creators wanted them to want to believe it to be, if that makes sense. And so this is where you would be seen as a dissonant, and we're figuring this out very quickly, in that even on the marches, those that are watching by, instead of now asking questions, sometimes nearly all of them are getting angrier and angrier and more triggered, more nasty and more vile. And this is exactly what they wanted. And so at this point, what do? You're sort of sitting there figuring out, is this real? How do I get through to my loved ones? How do I get through to these people? I mean, can they not see? No, they can't. And it's going to be very few who wake up from not being able to see ever again. This is, like I warned, a very dark and deep-seated magic spell. And don't think it is just those within the very obvious narrative that are being taken in by this. No, this is lattice work. So all of the ones that were previously in affiliation with political figures as being saviors, religious figures as being saviors, not knowing quite really what ascension means or sovereignty means, but being behind it, they are still in the aware camp, sort of, because they know a lot of what is going on and they're calling a lot outright. But again, they're being led back in without even realizing it, in a hypnotized state by the same system. Just again, the different characters, they're very good now at morphing people into the narrative. So all of a sudden, they'll get these people back in and into the stream that they want them in. And again, these political figures, these saviors, these godlike figures will just be absorbed into the narrative, and those people will be stuck also. So this is going to get many, and it is getting many. And so you sort of do figure out, what do I do? How do I say it? How do I say it? Surely they'll see it now. Surely they'll see it now. No, again, remember, it happens in reverse. It's a little bit like hypnotizing on a stage. You can have the funniest term linked to a behavior. When that term is seeped through, it doesn't matter if everything about the rest of the conversation is telling the person not to act like a chicken when the person says bark like a dog. As soon as that person says bark like a dog, they're going to act like a chicken, because the hypnotized seed is there, it is planted, and the person has taken hold of it and nurtured it and made it their own unknowingly. And so at this point, you even have those who are the new cult leaders of this narrative. Even they are not in, for the great part, in full knowing of what they do. don't get me wrong, they know exactly that they're doing wrong, but they're not in full knowing of what they do. They are now getting into this hypnotized state, which is why you're seeing them start to have tantrums like children when they don't get their own way, because they are getting more and more unhinged. They are now attached to this new power that this narrative has given them to be able to decree things under emergency use, and to be able to have such power that they didn't ever dream of before as a politician. Now they have it. They don't want to let go of it either. So they are now attached and hypnotized to the storyline, to the narrative, to drag this out for as long as possible, because it feels like paradise. It feels exciting. They're no longer falling asleep on the parliamentary seats. They're excited to be there because, this feels like something. Don't know what, but something. And so this is where they are at too. So again, we have that, a huge part of that sector hypnotized as well. And so at this point, we see that the totalitarian system is very deeply seeded in this reality. And unfortunately, it seems like in the mice experiment, where the paradise was built, the narrative was built. I can't remember his name, but because every need was met, furlough, being able to work from home, all of a sudden we're going to start to see medical stuff that's really going to help, even though we could do far more with far less harm. The kind of stem cell stuff that they're going to be bringing out, and they could be using it as a fabulous thing, don't get me wrong, but again, it's the intent behind it. All of that is going to start to seem also perfect, and the dissonance, us, are going to start to seem also so much more crazy. It's at this point then, when everything's perfect in the mice experiment, that they start to eat each other. And this is where the totalitarian state that we are in is going towards, in that the people that are now hypnotized by this narrative are part of a collective that ultimately the systems can't survive this way. Because you see, to a point, like in religion, like Yahweh, as Wayne said, and this is where Wayne got me thinking about putting this out again, Yahweh said he created evil for his own entertainment. That dualistic system, to a point, these cult leaders, these narrative bots that are putting out this narrative, these technocrats, eugenicists, need us as well as the dissonance. Because without us meeting the certain force, having a certain resistance, without us being a focus of the hypnotized many to vent their angers on, in order to keep them in the narrative, in the place that these people want them to be in, without that, then they can't keep a balance on it. And when they can't keep a balance on it, that is when a totalitarian system such as this, like the mice, start eating themselves, attacking themselves, attacking enough of us, if they can get that far, to try and make our numbers dwindle so much that we're no longer a threat to the narrative. Leaders, you see, who are pushing this new cult are taking a risk. And I don't think half of them are taking an informed risk, ironically, in that the beings behind them that are pushing this know full well that once the totalitarian collective start to eat themselves, there will be a huge number left that go all Bolshevik on their arse, because then they will wake up. Because then there won't be enough of an energetic force in this equation via the awake and aware to keep meeting them, for them to put all of their fear and all of their hatred and all of their selfishness on. At that point, there's space for them to think, where did this all start? This is a mess. It will be actually these cult leaders that will then answer to it rather than these shadowy beings behind it. And so, again, we're all being fucking played. And so this is where we are at. So I want us to consider that as far as, yes, we've got to continue to toe the line and hold our ground and fight for what we can fight for. But at this point, questionably, we're already past the point where we have to resign ourselves to building enough systems in order to sustain ourselves outside of the old systems that are rapidly morphing into the new systems with the old boss for long enough for us to witness the totalitarian system eating itself, and therefore finally eating the cult leaders. And for enough of us to survive that in order to rebuild. And so is the happy ending. So I just wanted to put that out there. Let me know what you think. Let me know how this resonates with you. Definitely seeing it on the ground over here in the UK. Definitely seeing it real close to home. It's difficult, even though I saw it coming, even though I saw the visions and sort of, you know, got other people ready and prepared myself. It's still a shocker. But this is our saga. We are here. And this is exciting. You know, this is even just the potential of us to be part of finally dislodging the thorn that has been these hijackers, whatever these hijackers are. Even if it's just a hijacking of our own consciousnesses through our own stupid selves because we were looking for an exciting trip way back when, so we clung on to some nut jobs theory of a god, or what the gods and goddesses were. Even if that's just the case, how exciting is that we can finally take out that ingrown toenail of the thorn in our side and see what's next. So it's not all down and out, but it is a bit of reality, and it is a reality check that we are where we are. And it's difficult because on the awake and aware side, what you're dealing with is that these plans are real stupid and real clever at the same time, in that this is where you'll feel sometimes like you're going crazy, because for those that are part of the narrative and behind the narrative, it is their new cult, their new belief system. They've even got new levels of ethics and morals and okays and not okays. This is where their voice can be so loud, and the leaders know to not do too much too soon. So, i.e. keeping people comfortable enough on furlough while jobs are disappearing by the millions, if not billions, so that that might shock too many people awake, you see. And so when we're warning of that, because there isn't that being felt in the collective, in the grand scale of things, you know, it's difficult because you are seen as crazy, you are seen as out there. This is how they creep this kind of thing in. When you get into a violent narcissistic relationship, very few of those violent narcissistic partners just come up and say, I'd love to take you out on a date and break your nose and burst your lip. They don't. It's slow, incremental steps in order to get you where they want you. And in order for them to enjoy the game a bit, it would be over too fast. It would be too much of a quick climax, you know, wham, bam, smack you mum kind of thing. There's no fun in that. And so it does make you feel crazy at some time. So I just hope that this video helps put it in context to see where it's at. You know, it's not the best story tale in the world, but it is a story tale and it is a saga, and you can write the ending. You can write your ending. prep, prepare your mind, prepare your spirit, prepare your soul, prepare your body, prepare your emotional body, and survive, and be at the other end of this, to be a part of rebuilding something beautiful and something amazing and something far more balanced than we seem to have here already. Let us leave strong roots for the fruits that come after us, the children. Much love, balance and wholeness always. Mwah.